What made is made.
Part of what is going on with what we're trying to do is education and basically breaking the information blockade that we have in this country. Because as most of you know, the corporate media are not interested in reporting about the fact that people of East Palestine, the residents of East Palestine, are not getting health care, and also they're actually stuck in their homes that have been contaminated. And it's really a crime, it's really a capitalist crime that working people, families, through no fault of their own, have been contaminated by Norfolk Southern, and they're suffering, and they're getting cancers, and they're getting all kinds of really ailments caused by this chemical catastrophe. And as everyone knows, this Trump government is continuing and escalating deregulation by these corporations, and also merging all the the railroads rather. They want to get one big railroad company, and without any kind of regulation, and the effect on workers is going to be catastrophic, actually. It's already bad now. There are already a large number of derailments, and so this issue of the situation of health and safety on the rails for both the railroad workers and communities is out of control. It is a systemic crisis, which is caused by their need for profits. That's basically what's going on. Getting rid of railroad workers, and this incident of East Palestine really again shows the need for the labor movement for working people to fight for single payer. And in Pittsburgh, one of the important struggles for single payer has been led by Ed, and Ed is a longtime activist for single payer, and actually we are fighting these Medicaid cuts, which are massive. 17 million people may lose their health care, and 500,000 healthcare workers are going to get laid off. That's a catastrophe. A lot of public hospitals are dependent on Medicaid. If they don't get Medicaid, they can't operate. So not only rural hospitals, but many other hospitals. So Ed has been leading the campaign and is actually formed a new committee, the National Campaign for Single Payer. And when we found out about that, we wanted to support that. So we have an organizing committee in Northern California, and we just had a rally on July the 30th at Harry Bridges Plaza to commemorate that. And before we had the rally at Harry Bridges Plaza, we went down to the Alcatraz Tours on Pier 33, where we protested the money that's going to prisons and the plan of Trump and Bondi, the Attorney General, to turn Alcatraz into a new prison, spend $1 billion, $2 billion making that prison. But again, that's the priorities, unfortunately. So what we said is healthcare, not prisons, is what we have. So welcome, Ed.
Thank you, Steve, and welcome everyone here to this conference, this panel. And I want to thank Steve for helping put this on. And it is an important time. It's almost a critical juncture in history, not only for healthcare, but as we speak here, for the labor movement. So I want to touch on two elements very, very briefly and make the connection. We had a little discussion yesterday on Palestine, and one of the gentlemen that came actually texted me today. He was a retired dentist, and he said, I want to thank you all for having this event because I learned so much about the interconnection between healthcare, labor, foreign policy, U.S. government, that it's critical, because he said didn't really have the conception of how they're all interrelated. So today I want to start off by, and I think Steve may have put the camera on this sign, because the sign is the most, what I wanted to talk about is the most critical element of why we're in the predicament we're in today. And what does the sign say? And I think it's what kind of a union do workers need today? And the fact that we're in a situation where all of the benefits, all of the social programs that we have fought for and won through struggle, starting with the Medicaid, starting with Medicare, Social Security, labor rights, the National Labor Relations Board, every one of those items are under attack, totally under attack. And when we say under attack, people think like, oh, there's a legislation that will just weaken it. No, these are literally attacks that will destroy it. And the catch is, why or how can we have this situation that's pretty crystal clear in everybody's consciousness that it's going on, yet you have almost no organized fight back led by the top leaders of the union. And this is the quote underneath there is it. There's a class warfare going on, all right, but it's my class, the rich class, that's making war, and we're winning. Warren Buffett. Now here's a guy who's a multi-billionaire, is a capitalist, yet he's basically telling you that our goal is to destroy the labor movement. And how could it be that we can have this situation and yet have such a weak and ineffective leadership in the unions? And I think that is the question literally before the workers today. And when I say the workers, I'm talking about the organized workers, but the unorganized workers also. Because you would think that in this predicament, with health care on the line, you know, 48% of the American population either has no health care or has essentially junk insurance. 48%. That's after last quarter, there was $74 billion in profits from the corporations, the healthcare corporations. 70-some billion dollars in profits. Yet, you don't have any real fight. And I think that what we need to do is you should say, well, why don't the top unions or the leadership of the union, why aren't they calling at least for like, not demonstrations so much, but just a general meetings among their members, mass meetings, and say, here's the situation we face. Let's talk about how we're going to fight this, or what can we do about this. Instead, like today in today's Post-Gazette, the WESA, you know, WESA is a local community or nonprofit radio. They interviewed some of the people. You know, the VA workers just lost all their union. They just destroyed the union at the VA. Yep. And what do you think the VA workers would be doing about it? What do you think that they interviewed the leader, and he said, well, we're going to talk to our lawyers about this, and we're going to try to figure out what they're going to do. And that is our problem. Rather than have a mass movement of workers that is a popular movement that takes the anger that people have and moves it into action, we have a situation where they're tamping it down. They're stopping people from doing things, which is a prescription for disaster. And if we leave with anything here today at this convention, I think it's a sign of the times that it's time to begin to have caucuses within unions. It's time to begin to organize and frame the discussion differently. This isn't about Democrats. This isn't about Republicans. This is about capital running rampant, destroying everything that we have. And in people's consciousness, I would talk to people years ago, and you know, when I was the Labor Council president, you know, 15, 20 years ago, and they would say, hey Ed, you know, we want all those things. You keep fighting for these things. We got enough already. You know, we have good health care, we have our pensions, and we have all this. Today, and I would tell them, nothing is safe. Everything that you have, you won through struggle. And don't you think for 1 minute that these people don't want to take it away from you. And you know, there was a somewhat of a willingness, but at least they were willing to push forward and follow many of the things that we did. And healthcare is a critical issue. If we don't organize around the issues that affect the mass of people, jobs, housing, health care, transportation. There are so many things that the labor movement can and should be doing to fulfill their rightful place to provide the kind of leadership that is necessary. And it can be done, because if you look at all the polls, everything that I'm talking about has wide public acceptance. And so we should not feel discouraged. We shouldn't, because there are things that are holding us back, but we have the capability of organizing and making that change. And people joke around with me, and I'll end it with this, is to say that, well, you were the president of the Butler Labor Council, and I keep saying this. Remember, Trump was shot last year in Butler County. I was the president of that county. Yet, when I tell people, they say, well, F Butler County. It's flyover country. The people are all right-wing. They don't know shit from Shinola. They just disregard them. And when I tell them, I said, well, you know, when we were the president of Butler County Labor Council, you know, we had a referendum on the nuclear war. And do you know that it passed by 80% in Butler County? And we had jobs with peace referendums. We had buses going to Washington, D.C. against demonstrations for freedom in El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua. We had the trade unionists from Central America talking to our rank and file workers. We had visitors from the Soviet Union. I showed people pictures where they came in to spoke at my Central Labor Council dinner. And I said, today that probably would be illegal. We'd probably be all in jail. And the point is, how could all of those things have happened in the same county today? Did the water change? Did the air change? And what really changed was there was a lack of conscious leadership to keep the workers organized, to give them the proper mode of understanding. And the Democratic Party just basically abandoned the working class, and today we have the end effect of that. So if we understand the causes of these kinds of things, and we had, the last thing is we had a town hall meeting, and I use this thing, and because these are all possible things that we can do today. We had a town hall meeting on the fight against privatization of Social Security. Yes, Social Security. This was in 1999. You had Richard Trumka, who was the secretary of the AFL, in our little town labor council. We had 200 people came to this meeting on against privatization. And we would tell people, just think if the AFL-CIO would have multiple mass rallies like this around the country where they would talk about all these issues, and they have the capability of doing it, but they won't do it. And it's up to us to recognize what needs to be done and get ourselves organized to do it, because if we don't, it will be a bleak future, but it doesn't have to, literally, it doesn't have to be that way. We're on the precipice of either we're going to move forward or we're going to go further back into the darkness. And I think that it's up to labor to take this time and do what they can do. But it's only going to be when we have conscious, honest people in the leadership and controlling the organizations, because labor has the power, and this is what we have to do. So I want to thank you very much. And
I'm Elizabeth Milos. I'm a member of UPTI, University of Professional and Technical Employees from the University of California, medical interpreter, and I'm here speaking as a healthcare worker, but also speaking of the different experiences that I've had related to issues of emergencies and how communities have dealt with emergencies. For example, in 2005, before I was a member of UPTI and before working at UCSF, we went to New Orleans, Katrina. Yeah. And a lot was been written about that, with the response, or the practically no response by the Bush administration, and leaving people to die on rooftops for 5 days under the hot August sun, and bringing in these federal contractors, basically privatizing and profiting off of disaster politics, basically. Halliburton and so that was like a very, very clear corporatization and the criminalization of youth that were actually on the ground trying to save people. And many of the youth that were so-called looting were actually looting mattresses to keep people afloat. And I spoke with residents. I went there with a team of people to help gut houses and to help the residents there. And there were residents of Coopertown public housing who basically called. They said these young mothers, were saying they call them thugs, but they came and they rescued us when nobody else did. So later on, when I came back here, there was the next step, which was the displacement. The insurance companies took advantage of the fact that people had been basically just moved out of there, and most of those people had no way of getting back. They were just sent off. 250,000 people were sent out and just sent off to the four corners of the United States and were not able to get back, leaving their homes, and therefore then they would get notices by the municipal government saying their grass was too long, or their houses were, which still had, many people had their dead relatives inside, were going to be demolished. And the minority whip was Nancy Pelosi. She didn't do anything about it. I had to heckle her at one of them. I had to heckle her at one of the meetings we had, where she had a town hall meeting. After that town hall meeting in the marina in San Francisco, she hadn't held any more town hall meetings after that for a long time. So this is just like one of the issues that when you deal with communities that are facing these kind of struggles, we should always look to see who benefits. And I have listened about the situation of East Palestine communities, and it's absolutely disgusting the lack of response to be able to support the people that have lost their livelihoods, are facing toxic environments, which, by the way, in New Orleans they also face toxicity, regarding the flooding and stuff like that. So this, to me, it sounds like they're expecting people to just leave their homes, leave their equity, leave behind anything that they, had, and basically be able to buy it up cheaply. I don't know. I mean, is that what they're planning on doing? I'd also like to point out that with regard to the railroad derailments, I remember very clearly with Biden, he voted against the railroad workers to be able to take rest breaks. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And AOC voted in favor of that too. Yeah. I mean, against railroad workers being allowed to take rest breaks. They were literally exhausted riding those railroads, and they were only asking for valid rest breaks. And Biden voted against it. He did not support them. So it's not only this government. Of course, this government is taking everything to the maximum extreme. That's what fascism is. But let's look at very critically about what has been happening before then as well. And what has been happening before then has been a consistent, not only consistent deregulation, but a consistent deindustrialization, and not keeping up with the infrastructure of this country, and basically making people so desperate that they would be willing to take, to sign up for the gig economy, where you have to, figure out what your shift is going to be tomorrow, right? And they're not allowing you to work more than 30 hours a week or 38 hours a week, so that you don't get health care. That is going on happening to a lot of our young people in this country, including including my son when he was working for, in California we have the Healthy California, so in that case he got it, but before then he didn't have any health care at all. And at the University of California, which is the third largest employer of the state of California, or the second at this point, I don't know, my union represents 20,000 healthcare workers. You see, the University of California has been buying up property, buying up St. Mary's Hospital, St. Francis Hospital, but laying off hundreds of people. So who's going to be running all those things? Who's going to run? And the response of our unions has not been adequate. My union is facing issues with regard to our healthcare, and whereas before we had a cap of how much they could increase, UC refused to negotiate on that, and they're just imposing their increase on their own. So we could technically end up having much more unlimited increase in our healthcare costs as healthcare workers within the University of California. And that goes for AFSCME workers who work there and who are much lower paid than we are, who are more in the hospitality and cafeteria workers, and some tech workers as well. Unions, unfortunately, have been on the wrong side of this labor community alliance that's needed. I remember in 2021, the Longshoremen Union had been fighting against Don Fisher, the owner of the Gap, who's also the owner of the A's Stadium, the Oakland A's.
This is the new park or the old park?
What they're trying to do what he was trying to do was to construct a new A stadium. But
Right down on the bay.
where
Yeah,
want to do it? Howard Terminal, the location of where the longshoremen have their site to train people and everything like that. They were going to take away Howard Terminal, create an A stadium there. The unions, the Alameda County Labor Council and the San Francisco Labor Council, they supported that because supposedly it was jobs. That's peanut vendors jobs. They're offering peanut vendor jobs, okay? Or the construction of actually constructing the stadium. But in reality, it was also a land grab of waterfront property to create condominiums. And Don Fisher, by the way, is also the head of the Charter Association, or promoting the privatization of education. And at the same time that was happening, the Oakland teachers were going on strike, and there was a threatened closure of like 50 Oakland schools, if I'm not mistaken, that number 50, right, of Oakland schools. So what happened? There was an incredible unity that started happening between the parents, the students, and the teachers, and the longshoremen, which went on strike together on one day and brought out more than 50,000 people into the streets of Oakland. They were able to reduce the number of school closures. Howard Terminal still is in the hands of the ILWU for now, right? And so the case was not, the A Stadium deal did not go through, even though they made things very, the Oakland Council, City Council was actually almost about to give them tax breaks, for constructing a stadium, all those different kinds of investments that they call, where we should be somehow or another thankful to the corporate class for giving us these little crumbs, where the unions seem to have forgotten what it's like to have any kind of ounce of dignity, for God's sakes. How do we win things for our families? How do we win 8-hour day? How do we win 8 hours of rest? How did we win workplace safety issues? We won it by fighting for it. We didn't leave it to the lawyers, we didn't leave it to the politicians. No, we fought for it. We fought for it in the streets. And unfortunately, we have a lot of this business unionism which it believes in this so-called corporate and this sort of like, how do you say, partnership with corporations, to have them become our partners, and maybe we can work together and we can create something better. No, we're going to end up with shopping malls and nothing, and not even affordable housing for that matter. So there's also the situation where the healthcare in this country is so abominable, for example, that many people have, their teeth are rotting. They don't even have dental care in this country. You have like a maximum amount that you can get with like $1,500. What can you get with $1,500 with your health insurance, okay? And so you have a public and working class who have a lot of healthcare issues, even before in confronting a toxicity issue, even before that. You're already starting out with very difficult healthcare situations, and especially also among people of color, and specifically, diabetes among Latinos. There's a lot of different kinds of healthcare. I'm talking about Latinos in particular because I'm a healthcare interpreter, a Spanish interpreter, so that's why I mentioned them. But in general, we're already starting out with difficult healthcare situations, and if you add to that the toxicity, it is abominable. Let's not forget, I mean, the workers' comp system was created because the situation was so backed up of workers not getting health care when they were being, hurt, when they were being hurt on the job in the 1920s, that I think back in 1929, I think was created, the workers' comp was like something that was parallel to the legal system, because the legal system was completely backed up with regard to those cases. So all of this is interconnected, all of it. And a national health care would take away the incentive that insurance companies have to not provide the care, which includes workers' compensation as well, which has ended up causing serious drug addiction among a lot of working class people who have hurt themselves on the job as well, from prescription drugs. And so this whole thing needs to be completely uprooted and changed, and we need something that is completely, basically we need single payer, like any other, industrialized country in the world. And even some non-industrialized countries have single payer, or even not even single payer, they have national health care.
Our speaker today, our main speaker, is Chris Albright, and Chris and his daughter is here actually as well, is a resident of East Palestine. He's also a member of Wayuna Local 1058, a laborers union, and he had a job as a laborer, a pipe worker here, and his family lived close to where the explosion and derailment took place, and has really been a nightmare experience for him and his family. And as I said earlier, the corporate media in this country, they want to talk about everything else except what's happening to the people of East Palestine, and the fact that they don't have health care and they're still stuck in contaminated homes. And that is a crime. When you talk about poisoning people, they're being poisoned right now in this country. Every day they're being poisoned, and not a word from the media. So welcome, Chris, and we're going to be having another meeting in Portsmouth, Ohio, because that's another hellhole. It's a nuclear processing area where nuclear material is processed, and people they've gotten cancer, and they've been fighting there to get compensation and get testing done. And I live in San Francisco. The same thing at Hunters Point Shipyard in Treasure Island, which was a military, naval, radioactive training ground for whether or not ships could survive a nuclear war. They towed ships to Hunters Point, and they told the workers to sandblast them after they'd been in a nuclear blast, and they spread the radioactive waste into the ground. The sailors got sick. The workers, many of them black, were contaminated. And in Treasure Island, they had a ship called the Pandemonium, a stationary ship, where they were testing how to survive a nuclear war with using live radioactive material. So this is what was going on, and of course a lot of those, they built a school right on that island too, where kids were getting contaminated. So you talk about a very nightmare situation. They're all over the country, and we have to build a network of these communities fighting together so it becomes a political issue, so we can fight to get health care and for them to have the right to get out of these communities if they can't afford it. So welcome, Chris.
As Steve said, thank you, Steve, but yeah, I am a resident of East Palestine. I live less than a half a mile from where the train derailed. I was stuck in my house for a weekend, and I've suffered from that. But listening to the people speak tonight and everything, and going off about some of the things, like, I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I'm tired of hearing this stuff. I am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're Americans.
Yeah.
Stop putting it on Democrat, Republicans. Well, the Democrats did this, the Republicans did this, the Independent. I don't care who the hell you voted for. I don't care who you stand for. Be an American. It's getting to a point where I'm starting to bubble over on this, and it's really driving me nuts. I'm tired of hearing that. Be an American. Just care about your fellow Americans. We had a fire, off topic a little bit, we had a fire right across the street from our house. I didn't ask them if they were a Democrat or Republican. We took them clothes, we took them food, we took them drinks, we took them everything we could do to help them out. I don't care where they are. It doesn't matter. Start caring about your fellow Americans, not Republicans or Democrats or independents or anything else. And that's really, really, you know, like I think, and the bad thing is I think a lot of people think like I do. I really do. I suffered through severe heart failure. I couldn't pay my bills. I couldn't do a lot of things. I got a couple gentlemen sitting right here who helped me out when I couldn't do it. They didn't ask me if I was a Republican or Democrat. They didn't care.
Couldn't give a shit.
Exactly. Right? You didn't give a crap. You helped me out when I needed help. You know, and that's what this country is supposed to be about. That's what we're supposed to be about. I'm so tired of hearing about Republicans did this, Democrats did this. I don't care. Stand up for your fellow American. You know, just do that. Please just do that. As far as like healthcare and everything, you guys have been talking about healthcare and what we are, where we are, and what we do with healthcare. You know, I had a great job. I was making a lot of money doing the job I was doing. And because of the train derailment, I lost my job. And that was a big blow to my family. You know, I was the main payer in the family. I paid all the bills, bought all the groceries, I did everything I had to do, and I lost that job. My manhood was taken away from me. And, you know, I had great insurance through my job. Union insurance was great. I lost it because I couldn't work due to somebody else's negligence. Because of that, we lost everything. We lost everything. We lost the ability to move. We lost the ability to afford things. We lost, I can't even tell you everything we've lost. It was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking for me, especially, you know, and I'm not saying that like self-importantly. I'm saying that because like I'm the man. I'm supposed to be the guy who does things, and I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't cut the grass in my house. I wasn't allowed because of my heart. And because I lost my job, I lost my insurance with that there, you know, I wasn't able to do a whole lot of things. And again, thanks to the help of other people, I was able to get my medications. I was able to get out of the gutter that I was in with my health and get back to semi-normal life. Not really what it was, but something a little bit better. But it was heart-wrenching. It was a very big ordeal for me for what I went through and everything. And I will talk about this for the rest of my life. I've done a lot of different things in my life, but as far as healthcare and everything, like I've always been fine. I've always been healthy. I've always been active. And luckily my daughter's wearing headphones right now because the one thing I want to say is I know I'm not going to live as long as I should. I know this. That breaks my heart. And I can't do anything about it because I'm not going to have the health care that I need. I'm not going to be around for her as long as I'd like to be. because of our health insurance system in this country right now. And that's a goddamn shame. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to walk her down the aisle. And that breaks my heart. Because of our system we have in the United States right now. And I don't care, again, if you're a Democrat or Republican. I don't care. I don't give a rat's ass about that. Do what's right. We got to start doing what's right in this country. We got to start taking care of our people in the country. We have to help each other out. And we're not doing it with all this political divide stuff. We're not. We're not doing it with so many different things on that. It's a shame, and it's not just me. Believe me, I live in East Palestine. I know a lot of people in East Palestine. Ashley, you know what Ashley's going through. Krista, Chrissy, so many people. Mike Stout, I know, I can't see him on camera, but he's shaking his head. He's nodding his head. He knows. All these people who need this help. We're in East Palestine. We were devastated by a catastrophe that was not our fault. We didn't do it. We had nothing to do with this. And our government has left us behind. They completely forgot about us. And one of the things about that, though, is when that happens, though, it's the people, not the government, the people who come in and help everybody out. We need to somehow, and I don't know how this is going to be done, to relay to the government that this is what you need to do. See what we're doing? We're helping out our fellow Americans. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to handle this. We're all stressed. We're all strapped. We all don't have indispensable money to give to our fellow neighbors. Yet somehow when something happens, something catastrophic, like I said, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal in any way, shape, because I have nothing to give. Believe me, I have nothing to give. But when my neighbor's house caught on fire, like we was over there right that night. Here, what do you need? What can we do for you? How can we help you? That's the American people. That's the spirit we need to have, and that's the spirit we need to relate to the government, to the unions. We need to let them know you have to help out our people. This is what we need. I'm not that old, but I've seen a lot of different changes in my life and different things, how they've happened and everything. And we're getting away from how this country should be run, how this country should be the land of the free and the home of the brave and helping everybody out and taking care of everybody. Like, we're getting away from that. We're trying to divide the country, and we don't need to do that. We need to stop doing that. Help out your neighbor. Help out your friends. It's gonna get to a point that I don't want to see it get to. So I could tell you a lot about my story. I could tell you about everything I've been through with all my heart failure and loss of job and everything else, but I don't think that's really that important. I think right now, we just need to get back to being Americans and taking care of each other. So thank you guys for listening to me. I appreciate it.
We have been trying to reach out to the unions in Pennsylvania, the unions in Ohio, and this is where East Palestine is. This is their community.
We've been forgotten.
And basically, to get these unions to say, hey, we're going to stand up for our people. These are our people. These are our members. It's like they don't want to do it. They didn't want to do it when the Democrats were in, when Biden was in, and they don't want to do it now. And the last time I was in East Palestine was the 2nd anniversary, and Vice President Vance was there, who, by the way, had visited East Palestine previously and said that he was going to stand with the people, that he saw that people were being poisoned. He was going to stand with them. At this press conference, there were journalists there who had been talking to the residents, and the residents had told them, we need health care. And they relayed that to Vice President Vance, and he said, what do you want me to do, snap my fingers?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what we want,
That's
yes.
exactly what he said.
Yes.
He wanted to snap my fingers, and then he said, well, it's been 2 years ago, and we're gonna give some money to businesses here in East Palestine. That's what we're gonna do. And, you know, the fact that they can't even pass the Stafford Act, which we're calling for, make it an emergency mass incident casualty site, and get them the hell out of their homes, and get them health care, it tells you really how rotten this system is. And today, as an example, this convention, I mean, Chris should have been invited to speak at the convention. I mean, he should have been invited to speak and talk to the delegate about what's going on. If they want to reach people, they have to talk about the issues facing people right here. And this issue of East Palestine is a critical issue for people. They didn't have him. Besides, they didn't have our labor musician, the best one in the Pittsburgh, no labor musicians. And also the veterans being destroyed, the VA. They could have had a veteran guy from the union talking about the attack on veterans. If you're going to bring people together, you can't start with just one union, whether you're non-union or union. You have to bring all working people together, and that's what we need to do. That's what the labor movement is going to, if it's going to survive, it has to do. It has to have a united front. So we're going to continue this fight. It's not over, and that's what we have to do. So, and then Mark had a question.
I just wanted to mention that we're paying Israel $3 billion a year, and they have national health care, single-payer health care. Okay, I'm just putting that out there. We're spending money. This has been going on for a long time. We're spending money on military aid to go Saudi Arabia, Israel. We're one of the countries that have the biggest expenditures of weapons, and our unions are also invested in these weapons through Lockheed Martin and all these different things. So we are invested in weapons manufacturing. And while we have that as a priority instead of the United States and an improvement of the infrastructure and basically our communities, until we put that as a priority, you know, this is a situation that we're facing. And that's why we need our unions to actually represent us and not be thinking about their money invested in Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, I'm Press Associates Union News Service, but I'm also the Washington Bureau for People's World. I stumbled upon a story. I was talking to a guy who was working for the Labor Department. This is the office that rides herd on federal contractors to make sure that they're obeying civil rights laws. And his office has been cut back from like 200 nationwide to 2 or something like that. He happens to live, and I'm from Chicago, he happens to live in the south suburbs. And he told me about a particular nuke waste site in the south suburbs that was on the verge of being completely taken care of. It's in Vienna, Illinois. If you go down to Starved Rock and turn right in LaSalle County, you come to this small town called Vienna. It's the county seat. Anybody here see the movie The Radium Girls?
Oh, the ones that would.
That's the one, yes, the one. That's where the Radium Girls factory was.
They would use the radioactive paint to put the timepieces of the watch factories. Yeah.
Right, and they were told the girls lick the brushes and then they put them back on the radium. Well, you can imagine, right? Okay, the factory's gone. It was actually a junior high school after it was a factory, God forbid. But the factory's gone. Pieces of it are all over town. And they've been cleaned up. But the main factory site, which is right next to the Fox River, lovely, huh? Has not. And they were going to clean it up. It was going to take 4 years. It was going to take about $90 million, dig 10 feet deep, take all the earth out, ship it to Utah. And then Trump came along. Guess what? No cleanup. No more Superfund. And you can, I said, oh my goodness.
Even shipping it to Utah is not a good idea.
And
That's,
even shipping
that's
it-
Indian
right.
country. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, that's where they end up putting stuff in
Right.
Nevada. And
So that's another story that we can add to this whole mess about something. Somebody should have stood up and said something other than this one guy who I happened to stumble upon in the Labor Department, who of course is a union guy.
March, I guess it was February 2024, Steve and some folks organized, it was a town hall type meeting right outside East Palestine. And that's where I met Chris Albright. And I have never seen, I want to say something. Chris talks a lot about the devastation that was wrought on the town physically, that was wrought on the town and brought down in terms of his health and in terms of the health of the other people in the town. Looking from the outside, to me, the betrayal and the abandonment was 10 times worse. And I don't mean just the government abandoned them at every level. And think what it's like, you know, when you have a president that comes to town, and it didn't matter, it was both of them. Both of them. And then J.D. Vance, throw him in the coot. They corralled the Chris Albrights of the world 2 blocks away, corralled them, and didn't let them near these politicians that came to town. Wouldn't let them near. And it's the same time that was going on, like the first year that after the derailment, all these liberal environmental groups came to town, and you know, we're doing this and doing that a little bit, dealing out money, you know, water here, doing. And then the next thing you know, they're gone. They just left. They went somewhere else. It's like, and the unions do the same thing. They'll go in and try to organize a place, and success or not, they just pack their bags up and leave. There was no long distance runners there. So when I went there, and I met with Chris and got to know him, we hit it off. And like Chris said, I didn't give 2 diddly dog shits who he voted for, what. You know, I knew one thing: he was a union man and he was a working man, and his family were working people. And in fact, the entire town of East Palestine, if they ain't working people, they're so small business they might as well be working people. The whole town was abandoned. It wasn't just Chris Albright and a few neighbors and a few dozen people. The entire town was abandoned. So I made a decision. Because I could be doing 17 other things in my life. I'm retired. I'm a musician. I get called on. I got 2 shows this week, 2 shows next week. I mean, I could just do that. But I made a decision, whether my wife liked it or not, that I was going to.
She didn't.
She didn't. That I was going to stand with the people of East Palestine, and I was going to see this battle through. That what they needed was, they didn't need sprinters. They needed long-distance runners. So it took me a while, Chris. It took Chris, I think it was like 4 or 5 months before he could break through and get some of the other citizens to even sit down and meet with me. They were so traumatized and so burned and so betrayed by so many people and organizations, they didn't trust anybody. They didn't trust any institutions. Next thing you know, we have a meeting in Chris's kitchen. There's 8 of us there. The next thing you know, we have another meeting. Then we have a town hall meeting. There's 50 people there. Then we have another town hall meeting. There's another 40 there. And the next thing you know, we got a food drive going. We got trauma doctors coming in there. We got a nonprofit set up, and we're able to help these people. And what they understand, and I think what Chris was saying, if it didn't come clear enough, is we only got ourselves. Working people have only got ourselves. And this area, the problem with this area is they don't understand that Allegheny County, Beaver County, Butler County, Westmoreland are East Palestine. And when that plume, first off, there was 2 different disasters there. Most folks don't even know that. There was the fire that ensued and went for 8 days when those 54 train cars derailed. 8 days the fire burned. There was 12 toxic cancer-causing chemicals that when combined turned into over 100 toxic chemicals. And what some idiot subcontractor for Norfolk Southern did was they made a decision to blow up 3 cars with vinyl chloride. And so they blew up 3 days later after the February 3rd derailment, February 6th, they blew up 5 cars of vinyl chloride. I don't know, however, I'm Vietnam era. Vinyl chloride is dioxin. Vinyl chloride is formaldehyde. Vinyl chloride is one of the most cancer-causing toxic chemicals on the planet, and it has no cure. And that's what Chris was trying to tell you too. And what we've done is we've, on top of the food drive and the trauma doctors coming in and the organizing, and I want to tell you one thing too here. Mike Stout and Steve Mellon and our folks from outside East Palestine, we didn't do this, they did it. All we did is compliment them. All we did is leverage resources for them. They self-organized. And I hate to say this, and Chris knows this is true, 90% of them are women. The women are the ones who organize in East Palestine. To this day, whatever activity is going on, the food drive, it's the women. You go to the food drive distribution, it's the women there.
Dioxin gets into breast milk.
And that's, well, they know they're the mother of their families. And they're the mother of the families in that town. And we need the people of this area to understand that when that plume, I'm going to send everybody here, if I can get your email, I'm going to send you pictures of the plume when they blew up the vinyl chloride cars. It looked like an atom bomb.
Yeah.
It hung over western Pennsylvania, including Allegheny County, for 4 hours. Then it moved east, then it moved north. And in fact, ended up going over 16 different states in the east of the United States, and the entire time it was dropping toxins on the land, in the water, and through the air. And what might have been 12, like we had a guy, one of the people in our group, he's a chemist, he's retired, he's 83 years old. He jumped into this thing just like I did. He's the only person on the planet that went car by car in the Norfolk Southern, he went, before they took it down, by the way, he went car by car to examine what was in each car. Well, one car had electric vehicles, lithium batteries. One car had polyethylene. One car had frozen peas. When you set them on fire, they become toxic. They become cancer causing. What started out as 12 cancer causing toxins now is over 100.
One had pizza dough in it when it was
Pizza
burned.
dough. When you burn pizza dough, but what we've done is on top of all these other things I talked about, we assembled a team of scientists from San Diego State, from Texas A&M, from Case Western, from Bowling Green, and we've attracted now, and they don't want to they want to find out solutions.
Right.
They don't want to just examine and study them like lab rats. They want to find out what can we do for the towns like East Palestine that are going through this by studying East Palestine over generations. So we forced the government, the NIH, they're going to do a 5-year study, and right in the study it says you have to have the residents and victims of this explosion at the center of it. We want to hear their experiences spanning not just Evie's generation, but her children's generation. And until we have that kind of movement, not just in East Palestine, but throughout the United States, and I think that's what I do admire about Steve. Steve knows there's sacrifice zones all over. There's so many in Ohio. I don't know if people know it here. Ohio's a dumping ground for toxic waste, for landfills, for nuclear waste. There's, I think, 11 different sites in Ohio alone that has nuclear waste sites. And these people, generally, you'll have one or two people like Chris or like Steve. There's a woman, Vina, and they're by themselves. I mean, there's nobody listening to them. And what we'd like to do with the East Palestine is not just help these people get organized and fight this crap, but be a showcase for what working class people throughout the United States can do. And I want to tell everybody here, when I met Chris and I listened to his stories over and over, aside from the song I sang, I wrote a song. I asked Chris to sit down and tell me his. I said, I want to know your story. I want to know what you want. I want to know what you're about. So we had, I think, 3 sessions, 2 at his house and 1 in Oakland. He came to speak, and he told me his whole story, and I just wrote it down pretty much word for word. So I'm going to like to send people here the video, music video I did of Chris Albright. It's called Give Me My Life Back. And got to listen to that, because that's what working people all over this country are saying. And number 2, after I lost my job as a steel worker, I was the grievance chairman at the Homestead Works. I was the last one out the door. And I started a union print shop. And we were a worker-owned print shop. And when I started it, I had developed in 3 years into a brisk silk screening business. I silk screen hats, t-shirts, the whole works. I had my pick of the litter anywhere to get union material from. Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee. There were so many union shops. I could get stuff shipped to me in 8 hours. Clinton comes along and signs NAFTA.
Right.
And every single one of them disappeared overnight. And every one of those towns where I got that material from was just like East Palestine. A small, rural, working class town. And that's what you got in this country now. You got urban decay, because nobody cares, but you got an entire rural part of the United States that has been betrayed and abandoned. And until we pull those 2 elements together into one class fight against these Wall Street bastards, that's when you're going to see change come in this country.
I love the song, but I don't want to embarrass Evie, you know what I mean?
It was a cold winter night in East Palestine. The moon was bright, the stars could be seen. Working class rural East Ohio town had no idea what was about to go down. When it boomed like a bomb, shook their homes, clashing and crashing and rattling drums. Rail cars jumbled in giant metal piles. All the flame black smoke could be seen for miles. 3 days later, another blast outside, then turned 5 all the criminals doing dirty deeds. Got money for wars overseas. The bail out the big banks and Wall Street things. Meanwhile, private town, Union Town, so many others. No one seems to notice why so many people that suffer. It happened before, just like it did there. Hell, there's 1,000 derailments just about every year. Trains are too long, brakes out of date. Not enough workers to safely operate. Well, the workers know the problem, better listen to them. Until you do, it'll keep happening again. So many lives ruined forever. Step up to the plate, people, it's now or never. Elected representative, where are you at? America's hurting, it's past time to act. So many sick from all the toxic waste. Get these people health care evacuated place. Declare this cancer alley mass casualty size. Top of solidarity, time to stand together and fight. Gotta unite. Stand up and fight. Together as a team. I'm gonna sound the alarm for all the victims, the injured and harmed, in and around East Palestine.